Hey everyone, welcome to No Breakaways, your source for all the Zwift racing tips and tricks. We're back this week with this very special episode on Sunday. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. We're with our normal guests, Jordan Shane, pro cyclist for Elevate Webaplex and Finesse Esports. Jordan, how's it going?
Pretty good, Rick. How are you, mate?
Good, hanging out. And Jacquie Godby, Dr. Jacquie Godby of Sarah Sapro's Closet, Forest Endurance, and Noon Sports. How's it going, Jacquie?
It's going better. Mostly moved in. You may notice the difference in background. We're out of Chicago and we're now in sunny California.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you got your move done. Yeah, we bailed on the show this week. We had so much stuff going on Tuesday that we just couldn't make it. But our special guest, Sarah Gigante of Team Tibco Silicon Valley Bank. Sarah, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. I'm also in a very sunny place. I'm in Girona in Spain, and it's absolutely beautiful. I've never been here before. I'd only really ridden in Belgium mainly when I came to Europe. So yeah, definitely prefer Girona. It's been amazing so far exploring.
Yeah, that's like the training mecca, right? I mean, I always see like, yeah, I've always followed like professional cyclists on Strava, like you, Sarah. And then so like we stalk you guys on Strava and see where you're riding. It always ends up in Girona.
Yeah, I'm glad I made it here. It's yeah, incredible, like I said. And no matter what kind of effort you have, there's somewhere perfect.
I
That's
was
all.
going to say, you're probably looking at taking some of those QOMs. There's some big ones around, huh?
Oh yeah, I really wanted to, but I don't think I'm fast enough right now. I looked at the times. Ashley Moon-Pazio, she lives here or like just nearby,
Oh,
so
wow.
she staked her claim pretty heavily.
Yeah. So something I always wondered, and I'm immediately taking a deviation. Do you guys, from like our agenda, do you guys all like do all the professional cyclists know each other? Like, do you know Ashley Moolman Passio and the other people?
Well, actually, she's really nice. Turns out, so I raced her on Zwift a lot last year. So I think she only just started racing Zwift last year, but she got super into it with the lockdowns in Spain, and she ended up winning esports. So she did know of me. She was always beating me. I think I raced her in like four main races. Like, oh, I can't remember exactly which ones, but I think it was like two virtual Tour de France stages that were the hill climb ones, and also the esport worlds at the end of the year. Maybe another one, I'm not sure, but she always won, but sometimes I'd get second, so I think she knew of my name, because then when I came over here this year, my first race was Binda, um, in Italy, my first world tour race, so it was pretty cool. She came up to me on the climb, and she's like, "Oh, welcome to Europe. Good to be racing you in person." So that was really cool.
Yeah,
Just
that's
as someone from Zwift.
yeah, that's amazing. Making connections all over the place. That's yeah, and so of course, Sarah, you got second in Esports World Championships. Jacquie got fifth. Jordan, you were well, you made a huge attack at the end, but so it's basically three
Big guy,
Esports World
big
Championships
guy came
people.
32nd.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I came 32nd. Watch out.
that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah, I didn't get my call up for esports last year, mainly because I'm mid pack B rider, but maybe this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Sarah, let's do like a little bit of in-depth dive into you, kind of your path into cycling and everything, because I read all the stuff I could find googling you. Congrats on having a Wikipedia page. That was super cool. That's like one of my life goals eventually, to get a
Oh,
Wikipedia page. And I'm mentioning
I
it on
think
here. What's that?
I said, I think I have a Dutch Wikipedia page as well.
Oh, cool.
Extra goal for you.
Yeah. If I can ever get a Dutch Wikipedia goal, that's basically it. I'm done with everything. I'm just good. So, tell us a little bit about how you got into cycling, because I mean, you're 20, 21 years old, is that right?
Yeah, I'm 20, and I've been racing since I was 8. So, yeah, more than half my life. And even though I was only racing juniors, I was I'm like so competitive. It's crazy how competitive I am, which probably explains a lot. But yeah, even though I was just racing juniors, I took that pretty seriously. So I was training pretty hard from pretty young age. I remember my big brother Scott. We're super close, and he like trained me up for the under 11 state championships. Like I come home from school and he's actually like super awesome at programming and stuff, and he made a computer program, like a custom one. I don't know how he did it, but he was like 16 or something. And he made a computer program that was kind of an early version of Zwift, but like not not at all, like just really, really, really early, as in a program that helped me train because it had like 6 sessions that he put into it. And you could pick one and then it would beep like a gate start. It would be like if I did one of the sessions they put in was like 35 seconds on, 5 seconds off in a row, and it would be like beep, 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 and then I just start sprinting, and then it would be like beep, 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 and then I stop. And I would do that. Like, how cool is that? And he was 16 and I was like 8.
That's amazing. So that was
Yeah.
like more or less like Trainer Road before Trainer Road was a thing, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never used Trainer Road, but I guess so. So just the sounds, like the program itself wasn't anything to look at, but it was pretty cool. I had my 6 sessions I could pick from, and they were hard. Like, yeah, 35 seconds on, 5 seconds off, but then you had to do sets. I can't remember how many sets, but oh.
Did it display what
I-
you were going to do, or was it just sounds? So you were like going into the void without knowing when you were coming out.
I think it was just sounds. Like I just picked the session, and then because I was on the rollers as well, so, and I was only 8.
Oh my goodness, you were 8 on rollers. I am so impressed.
Stop it there. I can barely ride rollers at 29, so yeah, that's
Well,
something else.
I had a track background, so that's why we all grew up on rollers. So yeah, that's how I started. I did it's called the Great Victorian Bike Ride. It's like a kind of big bikepacking camping trip across the state where I come from, Victoria. So there's like 3,000 people, mainly families and school groups. You just ride maybe like 80 k's a day from town to town, and then camp. You don't have to take the tent though, because like there are these big trucks that take your tent and your bags. So it's super fun, like massive camping biking holiday. And I did it on a trailer bike with my mum when I was 5, 6, and 7, and then I told her, no, 5 and 6, and then a tandem when I was 7. And I told her that I was sick of looking at her backside and I wanted to do it on my own. But it's quite a long way. Like, I think, yeah, about 650 kilometers over nine days, but one's a rest day. So she was like, oh, I don't know, like, it's a long way. You'll only be 8 years old. So we Googled cycling clubs for kids. And yeah, up came Brunswick Cycling Club. It wasn't the closest one, but it said it was super family friendly. So Mum drove me down on a Sunday morning. I had my brother's old mountain bike in the back of the car. But then I got there, we took out the bike, and Dave Morgan, he runs the show, dressed head to toe in pink. He does that because he says he wants to be like appear as welcoming as possible and like be more friendly looking to the kids, I guess, less intimidating, which is really nice of him. So he's known as Mr. Pink sometimes. Anyway, he looks at me and he's like, you need a real bike. So he hands me this bike without gears, without brakes. The brakes was what I was really concerned about. And I did the first race. I got there too late for the warm-up by accident. So yeah, my first race was my first lap of the track, and it was a 1-lap time trial called the 30-second challenge because the fast kids would break 30 seconds. It was 1 lap and a bit, so like 340 meters maybe. And I took 1 minute and 28 seconds. I was in the very lowest grade. But yeah, I had an absolute blast from that very first day. And my mum told me when I was a bit older, that first day at the clinic, it's meant to go 9 till 12, but I was just doing laps like on my own after the clinic was over. Dave was waiting for me so he could pack up and go, but he's super nice. So he was just waiting next to my mum, who they'd only just met that morning, but he said, "Oh, you're gonna need a crowbar to get that girl off the bike," and he was pretty right about that. So yeah, juggled track and road until 2018. I went to junior track world championships and junior road world championships, and actually I medaled on the track and not the road. But then I decided to dive headfirst into road, like kind of just accidentally happened. Yeah, I really love the road. The training's more interesting, way more interesting, I reckon. And then I had a surprise win at the Road Nationals the January right after that. And then after I won Nationals, then I was like, oh, road's amazing. And then sadly, I haven't really done much track since.
So are you the current Australian national champion?
No, that was when I was 18. I was better then. No. I'm the national time trial champion now, but
Okay.
and last year. But then yeah, the road race was a couple of years ago, 2019.
Oh, I wasn't sure if they had it in 2020 or if you've had it in 2021 yet.
Yeah, we had ours in January, so Sarah
There's
won.
January.
Oh, yeah, I'm thinking US. We don't do much in January.
It's pretty that story. It's pretty crazy the difference in community that you have there. I guess maybe it's state by state in Australia, but in North America, you'd have to look a long time to find a community where we have a bike ride for kids and a track club for kids and like people lending you bikes and all of that. You know, you must have a lot of good role models too, because I think there's a lot of World Tour pros from Victoria, right? Is that
Oh
right?
yeah, I'm so lucky. I've had fantastic role models ever since I turned up to that clinic. So yeah, at clinic it was always the older kids. I really looked up to them, and as some of them, actually quite a few, are still racing today, which just shows what a great environment it is when you compare to so many other sports. Like all sports, you lose tons of kids along the way, but even just comparing to other clubs, Brunswick definitely we seem to keep a lot of kids. I think it's just even if like maybe they're not racing seriously, but they might come down for like the weekly motor pace. Maybe they'll come maybe every few months. Like they might just turn up, you know. Even if you just turn up and have a sausage, like it's just such a great environment, like a real family environment. So yeah, I was always looking up to people at my club, and then when I started racing in under 19s, kind of like the transition between juniors and seniors. I was really lucky to get on I was lucky, but I also emailed every single team as a junior. Like when I was 16, I emailed every National Road Series team, so like the domestic teams, and no one knew who I was because it was just some random. But I'm like, can I please be a development rider? Can I please be a development rider to like everyone individually? And I think I got like 13 didn't reply, one said no, and then one said yes. And on that team, it happened to be an amazing team. I was so lucky. So I looked up to my teammates a whole lot. You might know some of them. Grace Brown was on that team. And then Shannon Malseed, who won nationals in 2018, she was also on that team. This is when they were domestic riders. So yeah, pretty cool. We also had Kimberly Wells and Leeson Hawkins, Louisa Lobig, who were all on the national development team and had been to Europe. So yeah, pretty stacked team for a domestic team, and I was incredibly lucky to be on that. And then now I'm on Team Tipico Silicon Valley Bank, and as we had the awesome news about an hour ago, one of my teammates is the current American USA road race champion. So I also have tons of role models to look up to on my team now. And I think, yeah, even before she won, Lauren, she's just been such an amazing mentor. I've been her teammate since the start of last year, and I did my first pro races with her. The Tour Down Under was my first one at the start of 2020, and she's just been fantastic since the start. And I'm just so stoked for her.
Yeah, shout out to Lauren Stevens. Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing her. I remember the little dance she did on her bike when she won one of the Tour de France things,
Yes.
and I was like, "Who is this person?" So I was like Googling her, and I found all y'all. That was so cool.
Pretty good to see the hard work pay off because, like, obviously she trained the whole time. She was at the top form on Zwift at least the entire
She was,
lockdown.
yeah, she was
I
ranked
bet
number one for a long time.
Yeah, so it's good to see that pay off. I know it paid off for me, like on a much smaller scale, racing my first
Mm.
races over the last couple weeks. There's a lot of guys that didn't put in the work over that time. They eschewed Zwift as silly, and I don't know, it pays off, I think. And I know you had your crash, Sarah, but I bet you put in a lot of work too. So I bet the fitness will come back a lot faster.
Yeah, I was on Zwift when I was here in Girona, actually. So it was a bit. I like Zwift, but when you're in Girona, you really want to ride in Girona. So
Yeah.
I think I was the first week and a half I couldn't ride at all, but then I was on Zwift and I was so excited just to be doing. My doctor said I could do 90 watts for 30 minutes, and it was very very strict. But I was so stoked to do that 90 watts for 30 minutes, even though it took me longer than 30 minutes to get my kit on because I had a broken arm and a broken leg. And then I was doing some bunch rides because, yeah, it's really nice, the social aspect of virtual
Yeah,
cycling. And when I
we can
asked how I
talk
was,
about that later.
and I,
Yeah, I've been there. I've been there the 90 watts for 30 minutes on Zwift. Yeah. It's a good feeling though, right? I agree.
it's a good feeling, a bad feeling. But yeah, the first bunch ride was good. I think at that point I was allowed to do like 150 watts for an hour. So I did our team ride actually. We have a midweek motivation with 2K Silicon Valley Bank. I think it's Wednesday. I'm not sure what time in America in the morning. But yeah, someone asked how I was going and I was like, well, I currently have a broken fibula, so not fantastic. And then a few other people were like, what? We're going like flat out just to keep up.
I was gonna say
But they weren't
I was doing the quick
because they were
watts.
typing.
150 watts for you is that's like 3 watts per kilogram, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
more.
And a broke. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty humbling.
Okay. That's okay.
No, well, it wasn't a bad break, luckily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My collarbone was pretty bad, but you didn't need arms.
Is it all on the same side? Bang, bang, bang. Is
Mhm.
that yeah?
Yeah, so I broke my collarbone in 5 places. It was horrible. I fully flipped and just landed right on it. 5 places and lots of shards. So I have like the normal plate, but they also needed special tape to try and put together some of the other pieces. Then I broke my elbow. That one's actually, even though it was the smallest break, actually the one that's annoying the most, just because elbows suck.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
you know how hard it is to try and straighten them again. But on the bright side, I have a nice scar. I'd already broken this elbow a few years ago. So I'm like so far from being able to straighten that one. So I was always lopsided because I couldn't straighten this one. And now I can't straighten this one either. So perfect. Now I'm back to normal. And
So
then the fibula was
Time
too
trial,
little.
huh?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I'm training for the Tokyo time trial. It's my full one goal. So yeah, you don't need elbows.
okay, so that
I
was like
think
one of the questions here is like, are you qualified for the Olympics or how do you qualify?
Yeah, I'm selected. Like I'm so stoked. Even now, just saying it again, like it's just crazy. It just blows my mind. I always like really wanted to go to the Olympics, but also didn't really dare to dream of going to the Olympics because it just seems so surreal. Like it's just crazy. I'm so excited. And yeah, it's only just less than a month now until we leave for Japan, which is crazy. I've already got my first vaccine. I had to go to Switzerland for it, but I'm getting my second one soon. And then, yeah, just doing my last cramming of training because, yeah, I didn't plan to break my leg. So I have to, yeah, I'm just being really specific with my training and less volume and just lots of intensity and really trying to simulate the race demands.
Before we move on from the crash, I read the article, your article on cycling tips. You skipped over the baddest ass part of it. She had the 5 breaks and the elbow and the fibula. She chased back onto the pack.
No way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I made it too. I only stopped
Yeah.
because I was like, this is so dangerous. Because well, I didn't know why I got on my bike, but so firstly, I like picked up my bike. I managed to get up and pick up my bike. But you know how your hoods often just bend a bit when you crash. Well, I was like, oh my gosh, I really need to straighten my hood, but my arm, I just couldn't. So I was like, there were like 5 people that had crashed. I don't know what I was thinking, must have been the adrenaline, but I was like begging them. I'm like, can someone straighten my hood? I need to get back on. But then my mechanic came with another bike, like a spare bike. And before I knew it, I was on the bike and he was pushing me. And as I was riding, I was like, actually, I don't think this is a good idea. Like, I don't think I'm okay. Like, I really don't think I'm okay. I already knew I wasn't, but I was like, this is definitely broken. But I'm saying that, I'm like, Adrian, actually, maybe. And then suddenly I'm pushing, I'm off, and I'm like, well, here I go. Managed to get through. And then I was like going through the convoy. It was so bad. Like, I'm laughing now, but I'm lucky nothing went wrong. I was going through the convoy on like this descent, like one hand, and like not thinking straight. And I made it to the bunch. I don't know how. Like, considering how much it hurt, even when I was doing 90 watts, I had to be, like the doctor said, to be strict with 90, but I think I went a tiny bit harder just like by accident or something, and it started to hurt quite a lot, even though it was just like 100 watts. So yeah, no idea how I managed to catch up. But I got there. I went to the car behind the race, the doctor. I was like, I think I've broken my collarbone. And then he was like, no, and I'm like, what? You don't speak English? So then I was like, lucky we went in the Belgian part. I mean the Flemish part of Belgium. So, and I couldn't think of the word for collarbone, but I'm like, broken, épaule, échappé or something. I don't know. I tried to say épaule, definitely broken. And he's like, like he knew what I said. So he pulls out this spray, like literally a can, and starts spraying my collarbone. And I'm like,
I know that one. Yeah, that makes it all better. The antiseptic spray makes it all better every time. It's unreal.
Bone. So I went back to the peloton. I'm like, well, that was useless. And then, yeah, maybe like just as I was getting there, I wasn't quite back from, like, I was only a few meters behind, but like 7 people crashed, and I only just dodged it and braked in time because I just had like no control of my bike. And I'm like, this is just ridiculous. I'm so dangerous. Yeah, to myself and also everyone else, although I was at the very back the whole time. And then I was like, oh, but it's flesh alone. Like, this is the race. I really, really, and it's pretty much like esports in real life, like that. The world championship course finishes on the Mer de Huy. I was so pumped, and also there were only 2 more races in the Olympic selection window, and I didn't feel like I'd like really guaranteed my spot yet. So I was just like, I really, really need to do well. But then I tried to get out of the seat just to do a check. I didn't need to get out of the seat at that point, but I'm like, well, if I'm gonna try and get up the Mer de Huy and try and do well, I'm gonna have to be able to get out of the seat. And it was like, I don't even know how to describe my attempt at getting out of the seat with a broken arm and leg. And then I stopped. And then as soon as I stopped, everything killed. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's crazy what adrenaline does, because it hurt. Like, I knew it was broken, but then I stopped and it just like absolutely killed. And then I had to sit in the convoy for 3 hours driving around behind the race, and it was even more painful because the convoy, like the cars just go, stop, everyone, like there's a crash. Then
So
chase back on. There are like cobbles and corners everywhere. My elbows like hitting the car. We had no painkiller. It was quite painful, but I'm better now.
the next time our viewers or myself thinks of dropping out and rage quitting after a dropout, an Amp Plus dropout, you should probably keep going.
Yeah,
You
maybe.
know, I think you can probably. Sarah's been through worse.
In lockdown, I was so sick of just like lockdown because we could only ride 5K from our house, and for 1 hour that was for 12 weeks, and then it was 2 hours. But yeah, I did so many Zwift races that once this is kind of embarrassing, but I had a tantrum, like just a tantrum to myself. I was the only one there, but I had a tantrum and quit the race because it was up the Zwift, and I'd forgotten to put on like the light wheels and the climbing bike.
Oh,
And I'm
yeah.
like, this is ridiculous. I'm quitting. And then I joined some other race. I can't believe that. Like I was so.
It happens.
I've done that.
We've all rage quit,
quitting.
Sarah. We've all rage quit. I've had a lot of choice words for people here in the safety of my own house about different things. Yeah. So you're in, I don't know if good company, but you're in the company of friends for sure.
Company of everybody who's ever raced Zwift.
So
everybody here understands.
yeah.
Yes.
That's one of the nice things, like you said, about Zwift and like virtual cycling that I like is like you can quit. If you're super mad at us, you quit. And then you like take a deep breath and then you can just go ahead and start again. Like, oh, I'll just race a different race.
Yes, except that was the only up the Zwift one, and then I had to do some crit race. And it was the dolphin one where you have to do like 40 laps, and I'm like, I should have just done up the Zwift.
You just like stop and switch bikes and stuff instead.
Probably still could have won.
Yeah. So before I feel like we could talk forever. So maybe tell us a little bit about eWorlds, and I mean, you got second place, which is amazing. Jacquie, of course, got fifth. Tell us a little bit about that, and then maybe if you two could talk a little bit about the strategy, what you were thinking going in, like who you were marking. I mean, obviously, I think everybody was talking about Ashley before the race, it seemed like. But yeah, maybe tell me a little bit about it, Sarah and Jacquie. I would love to hear from both of you, just a little bit on the race and what the plan was, and then if it played out like you wanted, or well, like you were expecting.
Sarah, you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. It was super cool actually, because we hadn't raced much all year. So I came home from Europe in March, and then I didn't race for 266 days, which I read is the exact same number of days that Chloe Dygert didn't race for until she just won her national time trial championship, which is a random fact that you all know now. But yeah, I didn't race for 266 days, and then we had a tour, a 9-day tour. It was an awesome tour. At the very top of the country, and my mum came with me. I didn't have a team there, so I did this 9-day tour. It was fantastic. And then we had to like sprint home. Not really sprint home, but like it was a 23-hour drive, I think. So Mum was really nice and did most of it. Because I was so cooked after that tour, and then straight to the eWorlds where I think they started at 12:30 a.m. something like that. Finished at 2 a.m. So I was pretty exhausted the day after that, but yeah, I was just on such a hype from finally racing again for the first time, and then not finally, I'd been racing Zwift all year, but like getting to do the first ever Esports Worlds was pretty cool, and getting to wear the Australian kit, which was really cool. I've never been to a senior world championship, so I know it's not the same as a normal road championship, but it was still like a senior elite national team, my first one, so it felt really special, and I was stoked to come second. I didn't think that the course really suited me. I much prefer long climbs, so yeah, I know it was a climb, but it was pretty short climb, so I was really happy with my sprint. I did think Ashley looked good for the race before the race, like you said, everyone kind of thought that. But we had a real team strategy, Team Australia did. It was pretty awesome. We had a few meetups on the course, also just video meetups as well. Don't want to give away all our strategies for this year, Jacquie. But no, it was really great. We each like different roles, and then there were two of us. I think it was Justin and I were gonna be like the protected riders. And then Vicky, like it unfortunately didn't quite turn out like we hoped. I think we lost a few riders early because the pace was pretty high on the climbs. But yeah, we were meant to do some kind of team attack. It was going to be really cool, but it was still really cool anyway. Let's hear about yours, Jacquie.
Yeah, so again, this was my first ever national championships. And to do it at that level was really cool. Team USA, again, had like Zoom meetups. And it was just really awesome because this was the first time like I'd gotten to see a lot of these people I'd watched, virtually in person. So, getting to meet Lauren Stevens, Christy Tracy was really awesome. My role on the team was not actually to be a hill climber. I was supposed to be the person that just punished people on the intermediate hills. So I think that was probably best exemplified when we were doing the reverse KOM and I just put 500 watts. I had no role other than that. Like, yeah, my role was to like help lead attrition, At that point, I still was not comfortable enough in my eRacing. So I didn't really have a good sense of what my talents were, except that I was definitely going to be the heaviest rider on that course. And, finishing up a minute hill sprint was not going to be my forte. So I said, look, I've got this history of triathlon. I can just punish people in the middle and try to get kind of weed out those protected riders.
So you're the reason that
I like to think so. Yeah. And then after that, going into that last mile, I was like, okay, no pressure. Let's just see what I can do. And just kind of had fun, kept my eye on you, Sarah, because I knew your name. Like I'd raced you before, I'd seen you before, and I'd seen your success. And I was like, I'm here among the best. Like, I'm just going to have fun, race against Lauren Stevens, kept my eye on her because she was my teammate and I knew she was our protected rider. And just said, what the heck, put everything to it, absolutely died. And, really exceeded all of my expectations by getting into that top 10. So, fantastic ride, not a lot of confidence. Cause like I said, this was really my first experience racing at that level. And, had maybe only been racing, a couple big events on Zwift before that and a lot of smaller ones that were just not as high caliber. So a lot of fun in retrospect.
Yeah, I'm glad that you had that other job, that you gave yourself that other job, because otherwise you might have taken the win. I would have had bronze.
No, that was a fantastic breakaway at the end. Like I don't think many people were expecting a breakaway that early. So, just that early breakaway on that hill, I had so much respect for the power you guys were putting out. I was like, I'm killing myself right now. Like there is not that extra energy to get there.
It was a super fun race.
Much of a draft. Yeah. Sarah doesn't give a great draft when you're trying to follow her. So,
So
that's a thing.
Do all three of you still have your jerseys, or did they take them away?
Yeah.
Can you ride around with them?
Oh, we got it.
Yeah, I still train in the bib. I mean, it's a fantastic, good jersey.
So this was I've just now realized I phrased this not how I meant. Do you have the jerseys in game?
I don't know.
I had one because I wore it for ages after, because I was like, so cool. But then randomly swapped to my normal Team Tipco Silicon Valley Bank kit. And I'm not sure if you can only have one team kit in your garage at once or something, because I was pretty sad. Like I liked my normal kit, but I was like, oh.
Well, that's what I was wondering if you got to this, because I never see those like national kits riding around. Not that I see national team members all the time, but I know I've ridden by Jacquie before.
Pretty rare occurrence, I guess.
Yeah, and I rode by the guy who won, Jason Usborner.
Yeah, the
So he didn't when I rode by it, because I was like looking, like getting close, like trying to, he obviously was not riding that hard, but I was like cyber stalking him for a little bit, trying to figure out if he was wearing that kit.
I'm gonna drop you.
You're kidding? I love cyber stalking on Zwift. Like, I love seeing like who's riding, and you're like, oh man, like I'm gonna start behind them. You're like, I'm gonna give a thumbs up to, you know,
Oh yeah.
Sarah today. I'm gonna find Sarah and I'm gonna give her a thumbs up today. Like that makes my day.
Yeah.
Thank you. Makes my too when I see it.
I took it to a different level and just messaged Sarah on Instagram and asked her to come on the show. So
Yeah, you're a pretty big fangirl, aren't you, Rick?
yeah, you know it.
Yeah.
You know it. Okay, so we've covered. So let's. I mean, I think probably a good time to talk a little bit about something I thought would be really fun to talk about with the three of you, especially Sarah, Sarah and George. Well, Jackie, you're like basically a professional triathlete, so really all three of you. But like, what do we see in e-racing's future? Not necessarily Zwift, although Zwift's the biggest platform right now, but like, how do we see it evolving? And really, I've also noticed right now, because I went to race yesterday and I noticed there's only like 2 people signed up for every race. Last year, I took for granted how many people were racing during COVID. Like, and because it would still be like 20, even though, but like right now, we are like in the Zwift off season, a
Yeah.
million percent. Like, we couldn't even find a race to do. We had to like, we just picked one with a lot of people. The BMTR Fundo, if anybody's done it, it's good. It's not even a race, but it sure felt like it. But like, how does it fit into the calendar, especially for people who, like Sarah and Jordan, ride bikes for a living? I would love to hear from all three of you. Kind of, and I mean, Jackie, you do triathlon so competitively. How does it fit in with all of you?
Yeah, I'll give Sarah a bit of a break because she's been talking like, but I could start. I mean, it's different for me because I'm not in Europe and the travel or demands are significantly less. But I think I figured out the hard way this year that it's got to be a part-time deal for the Zwift racing. It was different, obviously, in lockdown. It was serious here in Canada. Like, we really couldn't do a lot. But anyway, like, yeah, obviously you can race every week if you're not doing any road racing. But yeah, I had a very successful fall campaign and really enjoyed it, and I feel like I got in good Zwift shape. But I tried Premier League seasons 1 and 2 as I was preparing for the road season, and I found that it didn't jive at all. Like, trying to be good enough, because Premier League's at a ridiculous level, even for me. Like, it's so hard. Trying to be good enough every week for those, I really disrupted the training, and I ended up being crap at both of them. And as soon as I stopped doing the Premier League, like, my form went up like 5% on the road. So yeah, I think it'll have to be a fall sport for me. I don't know what Sarah thinks about it, but that's how it's going to be for me.
Yeah, well, mine's pretty hard just logistically as well. I don't have a trainer like at the little apartment I'm renting, and most of the year I'm just kind of on the road, just race to race. Um, I did have access to a trainer at someone's house a few kilometers away, which was really good when I was injured. But yeah, just being on the road makes it really hard. Just all the stuff you need to race, especially once you're doing serious races and you need to, like find scales and have good ventilation, good fans. Like, it's not something that you just do easily if you want to do it well. And yeah, like Jordan, I don't want to do things kind of half-heartedly. I'd rather, like, if I'm gonna do a Zwift race, and also being so competitive, if I'm gonna do a Zwift race, I want to do it really well. So yeah, I wanted to have like the right stuff there to be able to do it well. And oh, did you get a food delivery? Nice.
Right
Um,
to your
but yeah, lucky. At home, it's really great, and I definitely, well, I'm going to have to, at this stage, hotel quarantine for 2 weeks. So hopefully, I can get a trainer in hotel quarantine, and it'll be perfect lead up for the Zwift Worlds if they're in December again. Hopefully, not at midnight, but I think they will be. But yeah, I think it's just kind of a kind of time of year thing for me as well.
Yeah,
So,
even not racing on the road, I absolutely agree with you guys. Like, I think Zwift is definitely going to fall into a season. For me and my triathlon career before this, like, it was always easier if I could plan on having a season where I did focus on racing, because then you can plan the training, You can plan life events to have another season where, you're not necessarily as responsible. And this past year was a lot of racing. And, Jordan, like you, at the end of April, I really just started to get beat down as, the rest of my life caught up. Getting married, graduating,
Congrats.
moving. Thank you. And like Sarah, exactly like you were saying, it's really hard to make sure you have, an optimum cycling setup. And we just moved, and to be completely honest, having the Zwift setup was something I prioritized. I said, this is the thing that like has preserved my sanity throughout all of 2020. It is going to preserve my sanity in the move. So I carried on actually my H3 trainer, went in a bit, I checked my baggage.
You carried it on the plane?
I checked
These are my
it.
friends.
Oh, I was like, that's
Oh
hardcore.
god.
Like,
Yeah, no. Too
stuffing it
big,
up in the.
too big for carry-on.
Oh, I was gonna
But we did
say,
check it. Weighed 90 pounds with everything we
Yeah.
fit in
Oh
there.
my-
I tucked my front wheel well in my bike case. Like, yeah. And actually had to buy a new fan when we got here. So, it is really difficult if you have that mobile life.
You just
And
Where did you move from?
Chicago. So it was a 1,500-mile move, Chicago to California.
Right. I forgot America is so big.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
Australia is very large too.
yeah,
But no one goes to Perth, so it
Oh,
doesn't
it's all in the bottom part there.
so
So I absolutely agree with you guys. I think seasonality is going to be the name of the game moving forward. And my question is when that season will fall.
yeah.
Is it going to be in the autumn? Because that's, when corresponds
Everybody.
best with other nationals. Yeah.
fall.
Midsummer for Sarah. Yeah, midsummer for Sarah. Yeah, that's it'd be interesting. And like a ZRL is starting again in July, right? Is that correct?
No, there's the Zwift
No.
Classics,
August?
and then ZRL
Okay.
starts in September. They announced, but even
Okay, that's
so, it's interesting to hear because I mean, I burned out too in February. I was messaging Jordan like frantically, "What should I do, Jordan?" And I mean, I just do Zwift. I don't have anything to. Well, I have a family and work and stuff, but yeah,
A real job.
yeah, nothing. But yeah, it's interesting to hear like kind of the shared experience, whether you're a professional cyclist or a professional triathlete / MD student / moving cross country, or guy in his basement who rides Zwift a decent amount. Yeah, it's super super interesting, and I agree with you all that it has to fit into the calendar, and maybe like specifically for Sarah here, I guess like Zwift has this view of getting into the Olympics, and part of that, I mean, part of the build up to that is like they want teams like Tibco, Silicon Valley Bank to ride probably the Premier League, right? Because I mean, they got Legion into the men's side. There are no professional women. Well, Team 2020. I mean, that's a professional team as on the women's side. Like, is there
right?
Canyon.
what? Oh, Canyon.
has
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. The Canyon on both sides. Yeah, and I mean, there's some crossover. I think from their is there crossover from their road team onto? I don't know now. But like, how do you get Tibco Silicon Valley to join the Zwift Premier League? Is there a path for that? You see, Sarah?
Yeah, I think definitely in the future you might get more of a crossover. I think getting like the big races involved, like the virtual Tour de France, I think that attracted a lot of prestige automatically, and also racing against lots of other pros. I guess just trying to convince, like I'm completely fine. I like Swift racing, but trying to convince some riders that Zwift is actually, or any whatever platform it is, but like virtual cycling, there's still a bit of a mindset like in my peloton at least, like you just don't want to do it, or it's not real racing, that kind of thing. So I think if they see other riders like Annemiek van Vleuten, I think she did Worlds. I guess just seeing riders like that, and as seeing Ashley, that's a better example. Ashley takes it really seriously. Seeing riders like Ashley Moolman-Pazio, taking it so seriously and being proud of her wins on Zwift, stuff like that. I think that will help attract more riders.
Yeah. I see a lot more opportunity on the women's side for it to grow mutually. And you already see that Zwift is sponsoring the Women's Tour de France, which you must be kind of excited about. But yeah, the men's side seems a little more behind the times, a little more stubborn, and the women's cycling is kind of a growth space. So I could see it a lot easier.
Well, here's a question for you both. What would it take on the e-racing side for people who race in real life to start taking it more seriously? Like, what sort of features would we want to see? Less gamification? Would we want to see features like enforced braking around turns?
I don't think it has much to do with the gameplay. Like I think people get on it and you're racing and it's fun. Like no one I've ever talked to who's given it a fair shake as a pro has said, "Oh, this is not good at all." The guys I talk to, there's a huge stigma about cheating, and that's got to be because Worlds was legitimate because we all had the same trainer. It was a lot more monitored. I think that's got to happen on a large scale with Premier League or whatever they want pro guys to do. And pro women too must have thoughts about it. Everyone I talk to, and it's kind of a thing because then you go. I went to Tulsa Tough last weekend, and there were guys that crush us on Zwift that are not doing so well on the road, and whether that's perceived or actual, you got to have the actual fairness. Like it's got to be like really transparent, or else those doubts will always be there, right?
Yeah, you don't want to have the doubts like when you're putting so much into it. Even if you have the trainer and the fans and everything all there, all set up, like Zwift racing is so hard. Like it's so brutal physically. Like just to give 110%, it is nice to know that you have like an equal, well, maybe not equal chance. Maybe you train less or more than the others, but like a fair chance. Yeah, having a fair race. So I think I did like it. eWorlds, how we all had the same trainer for sure. Just knowing it was completely level platform, level playing field, and yeah, I really like that. And also, other people didn't doubt your performance then as well, because I did find after I think it was Joe Martin time trial, there was an article after the time trials, like kind of not saying that we all cheated, but like kind of hinting at that. And I had won that time trial, and I didn't like seeing that article. So I think just having other people know that if you did do well, then you didn't cheat. That's nice.
Yeah, got to be legitimate for our sponsors to respect it, right? I think that's a big deal too.
Did you also win the Joe Martin time trial, Jordan?
I came second.
Oh, okay.
That time trial. Yes.
Wow. Yeah. So I mean, that's
people did doubt my performance just the same. It's whenever those watts per kilo go up on a climb, it's like people are like, "That's impossible." Like, no, I know a dozen guys that can do more. They just weren't here.
I mean, I think so. This is a story I tell everybody. I mean, I was I wasn't a good college runner, but I ran in college. I was probably like around halfway at the top college division. And I came home for the summer, and there was a guy in my town who was, he used to be a professional runner. He was one of the best in the country, won some national titles and all that stuff. But he was getting older. He was like 39, the age a little bit younger than I am now, unfortunately. But he was like, "Oh, I'm washed up. I'm out of shape." And then he would do workouts with me, and he would beat me so bad, out of shape. I didn't even know people could do the things. So like, people don't understand how good people really like the three of you are in compared to even really good people. I think that's where the skepticism comes from. Just it's like if you played an NBA player, you cannot fathom how good that human is at basketball. or
I mean, I was actually it was on Twitter today, and somebody's like, I second the thing that, we put regular people in the Olympics so
saw
we can
that.
understand exactly how good these people are. And I think that's actually one thing Zwift does very well.
Yeah.
Is, with these A, B, C, D categories, you have a rough idea of where you go. You develop your own playing field of like, this is my B cat nemesis, and like you can look up to the A cats, and you have a better sense of where you are because you're able to develop these communities. But then, once you're looking at like Jordan's powers, you're just like, oh my God, like, is that even real? And
all three of you guys is what it's like for me. Like, I don't understand how you three do what you do. It's so far beyond my understanding. I'm like, no.
I'm curious, actually, speaking of power, am I the lowest wattage sprinter out of the three of us? I know I'm worse than Jacquie, but come on.
My wattage has to be higher than Sarah's.
Can you do 1,000?
No, I can't.
Yes.
Especially not on Zwift. Oh my gosh, on Zwift, I swear my sprint power is so, I can't even say what it is. Well, I don't know what it is, luckily, but even if I did, too embarrassing to say. Like, I'm already horrible at sprinting, and then try and put me on a train. Oof.
What's your max 5 second, Jordan?
Like 900.
Mine's like 940. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. I still can't beat Jacquie. We don't let Jacquie. We don't even let Sarah. So just so you know, we don't let Jacquie talk when we talk during this stuff. We just move on because she's like, oh yeah, I hold 440 watts for 45 minutes or something ridiculous like that.
I mean, I'm just saying. Now, if we convert this to watts per kilo, it's probably much more comparable.
I don't want to talk about that either. Let's move on.
Oh no, Jordan, I'm sure you could kill me in watts per kilo.
You kidding? No, that's crazy. No, I can do like 14 watts per kilogram for 1 second. That's it. So
now I'm gonna have to do math. Oh.
I feel
moving
like
on now.
Sarah, are you looking up your?
I'm not on Zwift. Definitely not.
Yeah, I think I can get up to 14, 13 for a second or two.
Wow. Oh, I thought you meant 1,400.
Oh no,
like,
I can get above 1,000. Hopefully by the. My goal here is when the next ZRL comes around, I want to be able to get to 1,200. That's my goal.
Have you picked up the extra badges yet, though?
Get to the gym.
I've got the 1,000. Are you talking about 1,000 watt badge, or are you talking about the route badges?
No, the 1,100 and the 1,200 watt badges.
I'm gonna get them. That's my goal. I want that 1,200 badge.
My Wahoo glitched out, and I got them not properly, and I just kept them. There's no chance in the world I'm ever going to see those numbers. So, anyway.
I will say, I do feel like a big part of the sprinting game is the trainer you're on. So, like, John is on the Wahoo kicker, and I've gotten to train on 2 different versions of the kicker at this point: the H3 and the TAC-X as part of Worlds. And the H3 and the TAC-X like are just better for sprinting. Like they've got a wider base and a bigger flywheel. So it's like it doesn't feel like you're going to tear your bike up and like throw it against the wall.
Yeah.
I feel like
I ride the tax and it really hasn't hindered me much, I can't say. I can't make it rock or anything with my level of power.
Well, you got to gain a couple pounds, Jordan. I can help you on that. You don't eat stuff like this. Stand skinny.
That looks amazing.
I know it does look amazing. I'm every time my stomach growls, I look to see if my mic is picking it up because it's that loud that I can hear it in my ears. So thankfully it's not.
Let's talk about these injuries though. Like we heard all about Sarah's and her recovery, and I have a similar story, but we can hear yours first and then the tragic stuff.
Before we hop into injuries, I want to do it. We do have a little break. I've been telling the Herd series reached out to me to talk about the She series that they're putting on. They're kind of in the middle of. I wanted to play that clip. I forgot about it 2 weeks in a row, which is totally my fault. But let's play that clip. So this is James from the Herd series.
Hey everybody, my name is James Bailey and I've been the Racing Director of the Herd Racing League since April 2019. Herd Racing League is the sister group of the Herd. You've probably seen some mooing in some of your rides out in Watopia. The Herd formed at the end of December 2018 when we moved away from a different Zwift group. Herd Racing League was formed at the same time. At this stage, we only had one block of 3 racing events, Herd beginner races on a Friday and a Saturday, which was limited to riders with watts per kilo of under 2.5. Now we run 24 different races each week, which I think puts us around the highest by any other racing group outside of WTRL. We also have almost 7,000 members in our Facebook group. I like to see Herd Racing League and its Facebook group as a safe corner of the internet where all of our riders, big and small, slow and fast, are able to discuss their racing and know they're in a supportive place where they'll be met by friendship and encouragement. In terms of the events that we run, there's quite a lot of them. We run a Herd Summer Racing League a weekend where you score points based on your fastest times on the prime segments, as well as getting bonus points for your position over the finish line. We have the Stampede on Mondays, which is a no-draft individual time trial event over a bunch of different routes, both flat and hilly. On Wednesdays, we have Bullseye, our multi-lap points race, where riders score points depending on their position in their category at the end of each lap, with double points available on the final lap. On Sundays, we have our Herd of Mountain Goats series, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's a 10-week series featuring 5 different climbing routes repeated twice over the series, with the winner being the first over the finish line. Finally, on Tuesdays, we have our newest series, the Herd Sheeries. I felt that once the Zwift Racing League had finished, there wasn't really much in the way of options for ladies series racing, so I put the Sheeries together. It's a 6-week category racing series, starting off with an individual time trial, followed by 3 shorter scratch races, and then 2 longer points races, with points awarded for fastest segments and position over the finish line. Initially, my biggest concern was that we wouldn't have good numbers over the 3 events each week, but in week 1 we had over 500 sign-ups with over 350 ladies completing the first route, which was an 8-kilometre time trial on the Bologna TT route. So far, it's been a massive success, and I hope it continues to do so. So that's pretty much it from me. I hope you all have a thank you very much for watching.
I was on mute. Over 350 women completed the first week of the series, so that's super cool. I know here we really want to make sure and push women's racing up, hopefully equal with men in Zwift with the numbers. So that's super cool to see. I was really glad James reached out about that, and hope the series is going well. So if you're looking for an awesome women's series, Herd has a great one, and I know I've raced their summer series before, which was super cool and very hard. So yeah, I want to get that out of the way.
I think my mom.
What's that?
I was saying my mom. She said the Herd. She loves the Herd because she can't keep up with, like, she's getting on. You said 39 was old before.
We almost as old as
My
you.
mom, yeah, she jumps on Zwift. No, you're the one that said 39 was old. I said it wasn't old. But yeah, my mum says she can't keep up with that many races, D grade, but she loves the Herd because it's one of the ones she can keep up with, and she's like obsessed. They have like this cool Facebook group, and they're really nice apparently. So yes,
Yeah.
I can give that a thumbs up.
Yeah.
She did a virtual thing, random fact. So
She did a what?
at 61, pretty cool. A virtual Everesting.
I thought that's what you said. I wanted to make sure. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
How cool is that?
I wonder where you get it from, huh?
I know.
I wonder where you get the badass stuff from.
I know.
Like, geez.
Shout out to Mama Gigante. She's
we
out
gotta
there
get her
killing
on
it.
next week.
That's super cool.
Next week.
Yeah, and one other note before we move on, and I want to make sure that I don't forget this. Jacquie and I were setting up our match sprint right now. We're working on that. So
Oh yes,
me
I have
versus
my
Jacquie.
setup now. I have my fan.
Yeah.
So
We just
sometime this next week, we
well,
got
we
to
need
set
to
it up.
we need to get it on Crit City because I think that's the best one. I think you on a mountain bike, me on a not mountain bike. So that way it's
You don't want to throw in any elevation, make it fun, keep
Nope.
it interesting.
nope. I really don't. Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. I see. Yeah, I'm not. We're just talking about how
Is that right?
you are just murdering it up in esports worlds up hills. I don't want to throw in any hills. No.
I agree.
But nice try, Jackie. Nice try.
Yeah.
Downhills? You want to do a downhill?
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it downhill.
We'll just start at the top of the Alp and go down.
Oh, geez.
Still don't like your odds, Rick. I still don't like them.
No, I don't like my odds in any way or any format. So,
Yeah.
All right. So
Eh.
let's we want to talk about recovering from injury. And I'd love to hear from Jordan and Sarah because both of you have suffered big injuries relatively recently. So maybe talk a little bit about, I mean, you talked a little bit about your road back, but like what are the things you guys did to recover from these injuries, broken elbows and collarbones? And what kind of tips and tricks do you give the rest of the community if we are unlucky enough to have one of these big injuries?
Yeah, well, so I'll bring you up to speed. Like I think I might have broken more bones than you, Sarah, but little ones. I broke 4 ribs in 6 places, and I broke my hand there, that scar there. And that was December 2019, so just before all this stuff happened, actually, with the lockdowns and such. But yeah, so and I ended up having a punctured lung, and it got punctured again, and it got punctured a 3rd time. So I was in and out of hospital for 6 weeks in Arizona.
Oh,
And yeah, so it was really tough, like painful, just painful, painful. But I don't know. I think my biggest tip, like the physical part, you get the experts you need, like you get the help you need. Don't try to do everything yourself and guide your own way back. Listen to the doctors. We all like, that. But for me, it was the mental. Like I learned a lot about myself with that because I was sitting in that hospital, and I think, Emily, my wife, said, like, you told me you were going to quit the sport like 50 times, like that you just couldn't keep going. It was too dangerous, and it was going to be too hard to come back from this. Because it took me like 4 days before I could make a lap of the hallway around my unit, and I was slated to race in March. So yeah, and so I said that, and then just naturally, as soon as I felt well enough, I was on that trainer. I think my first ride was 8 minutes at 120 watts. So yeah, and I had a pillow. I had my time trial bike, and I put a massive stack of pillows on the aero bars, so I could just kind of balance there without any weight on the ribs. But like I just learned that I'm the type of person that's gonna give 100%, and I'm gonna get back. Like if I want to do it, I'll do it. And I think a lot, like most of us athletes on Zwift, racers, we're like that. And so you just gotta trust yourself. Like trust that if you want it, and you gotta decide, but if you want it, you'll get back. Like you'll put in the work. You're that type of person. And that was the biggest thing for me. And clearly Sarah's like back to training hard already. And so you're that type of person too. But yeah, be interested how you felt about it mentally.
yeah, actually, my worst crash so far sounds very similar to yours. It wasn't this one. It's actually in 2018. So I was 17 at the time, and I broke both my arms at once. So I shattered my olecranon, and then the force also broke my shoulder, and then because I'd done a big tumble, then I broke my other wrist as well. So it was like super challenging mentally. I was in my last year of high school, and I was trying to take it really seriously. So it was hard. Mum had to like scribe all my homework for me, and I wanted to go to Junior Worlds. I'd literally just been picked for both the track and road, and then I had this massive crash. So yeah, it was really hard at the time, like school and worlds, and then I had no arms. Like mum had to shower me and spoon feed me. I really didn't enjoy those early weeks at all, and it was really painful. Like yours was, Jordan. The elbow was just so painful. But I think the same thing. I was in hospital, and I ended up having to stay in hospital not 6 weeks, but 8 days felt long enough, and I was on bed rest for a while till I could actually get up. But I definitely said to Mum, I said, I'm never doing cycling again. Like, I'm quitting. And then, like, it's the day I got home that night, I think I had, like, messaged one of my friends who's a paracyclist, and they have a recumbent that they can put on the kicker. So Mum went and picked it up, and then I got home and like, I got on the recumbent, and I was so upset. I should have been happy I was riding, but I was so upset because my watts were horrible. Like, I'm sure just having a couple surgeries and everything doesn't help, but I think it was the position I was in, like completely different muscles or something. Like, it was horrible. I was like, no, okay, I'm going back to a normal back. So ended up having a ladder over my bars, and then Mum went into Bunnings, that's like a hardware shop, and bought like an abseiling kind of harness and a big rope and everything, and tied it to a tree in the backyard. So I had this arm like on the ladder like that, and then this arm I could put it on the ladder like that and put more weight on that one, and then but still hardly any weight because most of the weight was coming from the tree and my abseiling harness and sponges everywhere because I'd get like blisters because I ended up doing really long ergos. I was just I was on Zwift, but I was also watching stuff like the 2012 Women's Olympic road race replay and stuff like that just to keep me motivated. But yeah, like Jordan, it was kind of first natural instinct was, I'm never doing that again. That's horrible. And then straight after, it was like, oh my gosh, how can I be even better than that straight away? And same with this crash. Like, I'm so impatient. This time, I think because it didn't hurt as badly as the last one. The last one, like that elbow, oh my gosh, I've never felt anything so painful. But this one, like, it hurt a lot. But yeah, I didn't think I'm gonna quit. I was more like, oh my gosh, there goes my Olympic selection window, and there goes Flesh Walloon, and there goes Liège-Bastogne-Liège. So I was a bit sad about missing races, but then straight after that was like, okay, like how much time until I can train again? When can I train hard? Everything like that. And I'm so impatient. I just want to be fast again, but I'm not. But
Yeah.
I'm working every day as hard as I can.
It's like a light switch. One day you just feel normal. Like you're just like you go from like 60% to like 90%. Like all of a sudden you're like, ah, yeah, that's right. For me at least, it was just like crap.
To 100.
And yeah, you get the last 10% is harder to get, but I think you'll start feeling like a cyclist again. I mean, you've been there before. But Rick, do you still want to try road
Yeah.
racing outside?
I know. Before the show, before Sarah got on, I was like, I want to do a whole show about how I can, like, how anybody, but like I'm thinking about it selfishly because that's what I do. You know, like how can I do road racing and stuff? And after this, I'm like, I don't know. It's very safe down here in my trainer. Not once have I hurt an elbow. Not one single time.
It's so worth it. I've been racing for 12 years, and I seem to. Actually, I don't crash that often. It's just I've had 2 really bad crashes when I have. Maybe I would say 3 really bad ones because I was so impatient to get back after I broke my 2 broken arms. Trying to I was like, oh, I want to check if I'm ready. Like the Junior Worlds camp, we leave to go to the camp in like a week, and I'm still riding inside for like, I don't know, 13 weeks. I'm like, I'm just gonna go for my ride, even though the doctor said just wait a bit. So I went for my ride a bit early, and it was raining that day. I think I just I kind of crashed mentally. I'm like, that's it, I'm going outside. So I went outside even though it was raining, and I was on my time trial bike. I think because I couldn't really use my road bike yet. It was such a stupid idea. Anyway, I crashed, and then I subluxed my other shoulder. I thought it was a broken collarbone, but then it popped back in like 30 seconds later, and I was so upset. I'm like, I just spent so long on the ergo and to get ready, like training so hard just in case I was good enough, like recovered enough to go to Junior Worlds, and then I've gone and done this like from being impatient. But luckily, yeah, it just popped back in, and then been pretty good a week later. And then off I went to the camp and Junior Worlds. It was crazy. But after that, that's why this time I was better at listening. I was like, okay, 90 watts for 30 minutes. I'm actually going to do 90 watts for 30 minutes. It's a good idea. Listen to the doctors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So funny story. My mentor, the person who first taught me to do this for my cycling race, she was the director of my MD PhD program and domestique. Did semi-pro cycling, did a lot of triathlon. So like absolutely looked up to this woman. And she actually just retrained, got her physical therapy degree on top of her PhD. And I remember talking to her and she's like, athletes, especially professional and college athletes, are like the worst nightmare and best dream of PTs because they do everything you tell them to do, but they do more and they re-injure themselves again. And it's so frustrating. And I was like, so that's you? She's like, yeah, that's me. That's me. She's like, that's 100% what I did when she had her fracture. She's like, so I'm dealing with kids because I can handle them. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's exactly like you guys are saying. Like, there's just this drive to get back and be like, well, if I give 5% more, will I be back 5% sooner? And she was just like, dealing with that from the physical therapy perspective was just so frustrating of like, you're such a good patient. Please don't do more than I say.
Yeah. Well, that was the mental thing for me is like just realizing like you're going to do it. Like, you're going to get there because you're 100% type of person. And like knowing that now, if it happened again, I'd probably be a little more conservative because I know I'm going to do it. Just like Sarah was saying, like, yeah, anyway. Yeah. Try road cycling, Rick. It's a ball, man. You can see the inside of an ER really well.
We'll see. Yeah, my wife would get a big
don't
kick
do
out
it
of that.
in California where I might have to be your physician because that would be bad.
Another ringing endorsement here, Jackie.
You're gonna say don't do it in California because then you'll be in my race. And
I know that's what I thought. I was like,
right.
oh yeah, I guess Jackie, you beat me, but yeah. So okay, so this is the new thing we've been doing. We did it with Eric on our last show. I want to do it with Sarah. So Sarah, what are your 3 biggest cycling mess ups, either in real life or virtual? So this is the kind of like fun things. It doesn't have to be like crazy, like, oh, I swerved in front of a car or something. Like, I mean, I fell off. My bike fell off my trainer one time. That was one of mine.
The crap that you're embarrassed about.
Yeah.
Mine was a bee flew down my shirt while racing. So, really anything goes.
Mine actually, it was at the Herald Sun Tour. I think it was 2019. So I was just under 19, just stepped up into under 23. So, and I'd won nationals at the very start of January, and then because I won nationals, then I got picked for like the national team to do some of the UCI racing in the Aussie summer. So no one really knew who I was, but I did have everyone was in the national team, but I had like the national champion jersey on, and it was so embarrassing because I was like, oh my gosh, this is their first like time racing me, all these pros, and this is what I did. Well, at that time we were allowed to throw our biddens, and I saw a spectator at on the left side of the road, and I tried to throw my bidden with my left hand, and I was so bad at I don't know, my left hand, not because of my crash, I'm just like so unco and so bad at ball sports and everything. Anyway, it was like the worst throw ever, and I didn't even think it made it across the road, and no one crashed, but I was like so petrified that like the whole peloton would crash because I couldn't even throw a bidden across the road. Like, it was so disastrous. That was definitely embarrassing. First introduction to all my the pro peloton.
Is a water bottle.
Yeah, no, I knew that part actually.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's just North Americans really, because we try, like I said, we try to be like a world, and some of the audience, some people in Australia listen to this too, I will say. And
I have something that's not embarrassing, but it's kind of funny and it's impressive by Grace, which now you see how awesome she is, just like winning World Tour races solo, so it makes sense. But when I was on that domestic team, Holden Women's Racing, she was like so lovely already at that time. And even though she was like a billion times better than me, once we were doing this state road race series thing. And for me, it was like a pretty big deal. But for her, I guess she'd already been to Europe on the national development team. So it was less of a big deal. But like, yeah, I was like so pumped for this race. And we get to the end, and I don't know, there were like 5 of us left. And she's like, oh, Pity, I'll lead you out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is so nice of her. I'm so excited she's going to lead me out. Finishes on this short, sharp little climb. Anyway, she does this massive lead out, like the last kilometer before the climb and then all the way up the climb. And I mean, like she just dropped us all. Like I was just on her wheel and then I wasn't on her wheel. I was like, that was such a good lead out. Thank you so much. I'm sorry. I didn't, I just could not keep up, but it was good. I think I ended up still second and she won, so it was perfect. But it was just really funny because she tried so hard to be nice and like dedicate, well, not dedicate, but you know, like give the win to her younger teammate and just like rode us all off her wheel. So awesome.
Sometimes you're just too good.
I have a non-cycling mess. Like it's a pretty good story though, so I'm gonna say it, even though you asked for cycling mess ups.
No, let's hear it.
Well, two Sundays, it was horrible. Like I woke up, I'm renting this little apartment until I leave for Japan, and I woke up to a bang. But I'd been up late stuff before for my exam. Oh, I'm a bit tired. Like there's a random bang, but oh well. Like I'll just get back to sleep. And then a few minutes later, a few more bangs and this massive hiss, and my door slammed shut. And I'm like, okay, that is not good. Like, what's happening? I thought there was some snake. Sorry about the yelling. I thought there was some, I don't know, big snake, but then I'm like, what's banging? Anyway, I open my eyes, I jump out of bed. There are orange flames coming from the other side of the door. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, but there's only one way out. So anyway, I open the door, sprint, and there were 3 separate fires. So I went to the sink. I'm in bare feet, obviously, coming from bed. So I went to the sink. I'm like standing on all this. And I was pretty messy, especially being in exam period. So I had like stuff on the floor that was on fire, but I was not looking at where I was standing. So I was like running on all this stuff that was on fire. And I went to the sink, grabbed a glass jar I saw, filled it up with water, started pouring it on the first fires I saw, but then the glass jar shattered in my hand. So I found a water bottle, and I was using that, but then there was glass everywhere. So I was like running around trying to put out like the 3 separate fires, but also like running on. You should have seen my foot. Like it's better now, but yeah, I got the fires out and then sprinted out because it was like really bad to breathe. But yeah, I was like running around on stuff that was on fire, had glass in my foot, and then I almost managed to get myself evicted, I reckon. I couldn't work out what had caused the fire. And the landlord went in there and he came out holding this really big battery. And I'm like, I've never seen it before. And he doesn't speak English. He's like, what is it? But in Spanish. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't know. Like, I thought it was a bomb or something. It was terrifying. It turned out it was my portable charger, you know, like the little battery pack you can carry around. It wasn't even charging. It was just on the kitchen table overnight. And nothing was charging from it, and it wasn't charging. I hadn't actually used it since Belgium, but don't know why I'd put it on the kitchen table. I'd moved it from my bedside table, so I am so lucky. Like I think 2 nights before that, I was sleeping with it 20 centimeters from my face. So I've ruined the table, but yeah, it could have been a lot worse. It was really scary.
That's
I think
crazy.
we got to start a book about your life, Sarah. We got a few chapters here that are pretty good.
I know.
Like,
yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It was horrible.
Yeah, that had to be very scary.
Well, that's the best mistake so far, even though it's not to do with bikes.
What kind of is like a portable charger? Maybe it could be used to charge a biking thing.
And I'm only in a place. I'm only in Spain, which doesn't have a law for smoke alarms. I didn't realize that because I come, Melbourne, Australia. You have to have smoke alarm. So I'm only here because of cycling. So I only didn't hear a smoke alarm because of cycling. So
Yeah.
you can kind of say
Yeah, it's for
cycling
sure.
related.
It's for sure. 100%. 100%.
Smoke alarms are great.
They work.
Hey,
Yeah, it's something you
can't
don't
believe it's not
appreciate
law
till you
yet.
need it.
Mm.
Well, yeah, Sarah, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. That was super fun talking about all sorts of stuff. Yeah, so before we go, Sarah, do you have any sponsor plugs? Anybody you want to thank before we go?
Well, thanks to my trade team, Tuco Silicon Valley Bank. We've mentioned it a few times, but yeah, thanks to them for their support. I haven't raced for them for a while now. It's been almost 2 months, which I'm really sad about because I miss racing. But also, just my coach back home is still my coach now. So yeah, Dylan Lindsay, thank you so much for being patient. And every time I come home from a session and overanalyze my power, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I suck. Or actually, sometimes I do it on the road. That's a really bad habit I have. I like do if I have full efforts, like I'll do all 4 first because I don't like ruining my training. But then I'll like stop on the side of the mountain and call Dylan and be like, Dylan, I absolutely suck today. And he'll be like at work all the time. He's like getting ready for bed because the time zones are a bit annoying. But he always answers and he's like, don't worry, we'll get there. Like, patience. And then, just thanks to my mom because she's always been the best mom ever.
That's awesome.
I know she's not a sponsor, but
No,
she kind of was.
moms deserve a shout out. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, thanks to my mom too,
Me too,
yeah.
all the way around.
Shout outs to moms.
Yep.
Well, yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. If you guys like the show, click like and subscribe. It's out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Like and subscribe, like the podcast, leave some reviews, all that stuff. What's up, Sarah?
I have a question. I really needed to know, why is it called no breakaway? Breakaway.
Okay, yeah. So so in Zwift, you know how no one can start a breakaway? Yeah, it's like a play. Like I had come up with a bunch of different goofy names, but yeah. So no breakaways, just sort of like a little jab. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I like it.
All right. Well,